In this slidecast and the ones that follow, we're going to look at contract administration processes. So contract administration is what happens during the construction. So the last two stages of the engineering life cycle, during the construction and the commissioning. So the contract is obviously the construction contract. Administration is defined as managing the affairs of a business. So in our case, the business that we're managing is a construction contract, which is a bit different from other businesses. If you're a manager of McDonald's or something like that, it's an ongoing process because it's an operations thing. But in our case, the business that we're dealing with is a project, so it has a definite beginning and a definite end. But the principles of administration, even though it does have a beginning and an end, are much the same as if you were running a McDonald's or a shop or a consultancy or any other business like that. So the process is, we're talking about the construction and commissioning process. We start with the acceptance letter. So the acceptance letter is received. Remember, once that acceptance letter has been received by the contractor, the contract has been formed. What the contractor now needs to do is to put together the bonds, insurances, program. Together with the client and the engineer, there needs to be a setup meeting, and the contract document is prepared and signed. Now, we looked at all of this stuff in previous parts of this course. So the contract setup is all that stuff that you do to get the contract formalized before you even start on the actual work. Other things that might be included there would be the contractor planning the works, the contractor getting all his resources together, the contractor getting his finance in place, the client getting his finance in place. So there's a lot of other things that are happening once the contract starts. Once all the preliminaries are taken care of, in particular that the bonds and insurances are put in place, the site will be handed over to the contractor. So normally the client owns the site, but they hand over control of the site to the contractor for the duration of the works. Now, that's the way it normally works in most contracts. However, you can imagine with a roading project, the contractor doesn't have exclusive access to the site because it needs to keep on operating as a road, for example. But on other sites where you can isolate the whole site, the contractor will get control of the whole site. So during the construction, and then the contract period starts. This is when the actual construction happens. So the engineers team are implementing changes if they're required. They're monitoring to make sure that the works are being built properly, quality. They're doing inspections, approvals. The contractors team is concerned with the construction management, making it happen, making sure that the resources they have build the completed works and that the completed works comply with the contract requirements. All people, all parties, the client, the contractor and the consultant, are all concerned with the project progress payment process. There are site meetings and variations. We'll be looking at each one of those later on in the following slidecasts. Once the contractor has finished building the work, he applies for practical completion. He's saying, I've finished the work, and then the engineer goes along and makes sure he has. So we talked about that as well. So the practical completion certificate is issued. After that, defects liability period starts. During that period, any defects through workmanship and materials is repaired by the contractor. At the end of the defects liability period, a defects liability certificate is issued, which says the contract is complete. There is no longer a contractual relationship between the contractor and the client.